They shoot the shit. They shoot the shit. Shoot, 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 shit, shit, shit. Shooting the shit with Chippa.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Shooting the Shit with Chippa. This episode is the first episode, God, I've recorded in quite some time, and the first episode of any of my shows I've recorded since the live Talkbuster podcast recording that happened in Salem, Mass, which you'll hopefully be hearing either right before or right after this episode airs. I'm hoping to get that stuff up there pretty quick. And my guest tonight has been on before, which is great. I always love having people back. So before I get into revealing who it is we have on the show tonight, I'd like to do some housekeeping. Um, again, as always, I thank my $15 or more patrons, which are Mason, Christopher Finnick, Patricia Chipman, Hey Mom, and QK Campbell Jr., goes as Green Goblin. And I've got some new patrons since the last time I recorded. Alex Shaw, Andres Rodriguez, and Skullface. So thank you guys for joining in all of the fun, and I hope to make your money and time worthwhile. And as all of these shows are brought to you by somebody, today's show is brought to you by the other podcast that the folks over at Geeks with Shields do. So the Geeks with Shields folks are your place for all things good and nerdy in this, the darkest timeline. And Slagathor from over there in Geeks with Shields runs her own podcast called Geeks Who Haunt. I've been on it a few times. It's fantastic. It's a horror movie focused review and discussion show. So please check that out if you get a chance. And with that, I will introduce my guest the second time on Shooting the Shit with Chippa, my guest from episode 12, Ryan Whorton. Ryan, introduce yourself, good sir.
Hello, I'm Ryan Whorton. I'm glad to be back and nerdy as ever.
Yes. Staying nerdy, staying true. So figured I'll start us out this time with some right quote wrong movie because I haven't played it in a little bit, and you actually get the crowning glory of being the first person remotely to ever play it with my newly printed out homemade deck version of it, which was unveiled at the live recording of the Talkbuster podcast just 2-3 weeks back. So do you have your photo of your cards, good sir?
I do.
All right, awesome. So with that, I will draw our first card, and I'll just randomly cut this blue deck here and draw one up, and we have Interview with the Vampire. Oh boy.
Oh, that's that Nicolas Cage one, right?
No, this was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt.
Oh, Tom Cruise. Oh, right, that one.
The Lestat. What's it? Queen of the Damned. Do you remember that movie that Aaliyah was in? Like right before she died, which was really sad, and she was awesome in it, but the movie was terrible. Do you remember that one?
I actually don't think I've seen Queen of the Damned. I think I've seen the character design.
So you have to see this movie. Like people remember things from like the late 90s, early 2000s, Blade and The Crow. These things have like this very like edgy particular feel. This movie, it looked like a Nine Inch Nails music video, which is fine, but that particular look. And the score was not done by Korn. The score was done by Jonathan Davis of Korn. So you kind of get where the edge they were going for here was. And like he wrote these like really like whiny, angsty songs that then other artists re-recorded for the movie. So like you had songs written by Korn but sung by Disturbed. And so it was just like it's such a time capsule of what? And it's it's the sequel to Interview with the Vampire.
Okay.
As a random aside. So I will let you go first, sir. Throw me a quote. And I take it you remember how to play.
Yes.
All right, just checking. For those of you out there that don't, if this is the first time you've ever listened, thank you. The idea of this game is it's played like Cards Against Humanity. We draw the name of a movie, and we have a handful of quotes that are not from that movie, and we have to come up with a quote that is funny or ironic. So you're going first.
Playing to Interview with a Vampire. Right.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Got one.
You got one?
Okay. Well, I got her number. How do you like them apples? From Goodwill
Perfect. I'm a teen idol, damn it, from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Hunting.
I don't know, I like yours a lot. I could see Goodwill Hunting being redone with vampires.
I don't know which I prefer because yours just inherently sounds funny. Like just
Yes, it does. One of my favorite quotes from that movie, actually. All right, so I guess that's an even split. So 1-1, and now we've got Misery, the Stephen King classic.
oh god.
Do you know what Misery is, right?
Yes, I know.
All
what
right, cool.
Mystery
This is only fun if people know. I actually got some feedback from some friends that said a cool way to enhance this game is on the card with the movie on it, not the
Mhm.
one with the quote, to give like a tiny like synopsis or like a famous thing from that movie or like a couple names of the characters, just so you know some people might not know which Batman movie The Dark Knight was, right? But everybody knows Two-Face and the Joker. So you could like do that to, oh, okay, yeah, I know what we're doing. So then you can go, okay, I know that character, so I know what quote would be funny if they'd say it. Just a way to help make the game have more mass appeal.
Okay. Just thinking about that one part in Misery sends shivers up my spine.
Oh yeah. So did you find a quote? Because I've got one if you don't.
I've got a quote.
All right, go for it.
Say goodbye to your two best friends, and I don't mean your pals in the Winnebago.
Oh god, I don't know if I can top that. I've got life's not about how hard of a hit you can take. It's about how many you can take and still keep moving forward. Rocky. I don't know. I think I got to give it to yours, and the implications of yours are terrifying.
Oh yes it is.
So 2-1 for Ryan. All right. I like playing it this way so much better. I don't have to like have a spreadsheet open.
Yeah. This is so much.
All right. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Ooh.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it.
I loved it. I didn't expect anything out of it, and it just floored me.
I didn't expect anything out of it either, and then Kevin Hart got exploded by a cake, and so.
Have you seen the trailer for the new one?
Oh yes.
It looks wonderful.
Whoever thought of let's have Dwayne The Rock Johnson do a Danny DeVito impression the entire movie? Like they deserve a bonus.
Did you see Danny DeVito and The Rock have been sharing back and forth like factoids that are made up about the movie? Like
I
the
have
trailer.
not seen this.
So Danny DeVito shared fun fact, all of the Rock scenes in this movie are actually played by me wearing a Rock skin suit. And The Rock's like, you weren't supposed to tell them about that.
Oh god.
It's just horrifying. Oh god. All right, what do I get?
I think I got one for that.
All right, go for it.
All right. It's not a man purse. It's called a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one from The Hangover.
One of my absolute favorite quotes from The Hangover. God, I love that movie, and I will not let its sequels ruin it for me, because I still think The Hangover is incredible. I have, ooh, what a lovely tea party. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
I think I gotta give it to you on that one.
So you know what that means, right?
Tiebreaker.
That means we need a tiebreaker. Oh goodness. This is a first. All right, let's see. I'm gonna cut this thing down good. Desperado.
Mm.
The Robert Rodriguez classic.
All right, I think I got one.
Okay.
You've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk?
Punk. All right, and mine is, don't point that gun at him. He's an unpaid intern. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
I think you take this one.
Yep, I did it. Woohoo, I won my own game again.
Yay.
All right, so that's that game again, and I got to tell you, it's even more fun playing it with the real cards.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just feels more tangible. I wish I could, like, I don't know, FedEx you them. But then I wouldn't have them anymore. I can't believe I got them all back playing them live. I thought like people were gonna take them as souvenirs or something.
Uh, that that's not completely unexpected for something like that. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, dude. I can't wait to show the video off. The bartender made up themed drinks.
Ooh.
Yeah, dude. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, so how have you been since we last had the fun of talking on this forum, good sir?
I've been good. I've been delving into a new project of mine lately. Uh, and in addition to trying to catch up on so many shows.
Nice. Have you seen The Dark Crystal?
I just finished episode 5 tonight.
Yeah, I just finished all of it yesterday.
It's funny because the night, like the Monday after it came out, I watched episode 1, and I had actually never seen the movie before. And then I decided on a whim to check in and see if Netflix had the movie. I'm like, there's the movie. I'll watch the movie.
It's amazing how good of a job they did at recreating that look. I
really
just
is.
didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. When you finish it, it immediately plays this documentary about the making of the new show, and just listening to the people talk about it, like the production team and the actors doing the voices, just like they go through all of the, well, we tried doing it CG just because, it's cheaper. Like, that they had like the team that did the Troll show that Guillermo del Toro did come in, and they were thinking about doing it that way. Way back in the day, Jendy Tartakovsky was going to do a version of it, so it was going to have like that Samurai Jack kind of look.
Ooh.
And then they moved away from that. I guess he's still credited as a producer because he had done a ton of work on it. But they did the CG, and then they said, okay, you know what? We're going to build a Skeksis. And so they made like Chamberlain and had a Chamberlain puppet run around but chase around a digital Gelfling.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it just, the Skeksis looked so good that it made our digital creature look less good by comparison. So we just decided, you know what, it has to be puppets. And what they ended up doing was, speaking of Robert Rodriguez from the Desperado, Rodriguez had actually been a big torch carrier of this, where augmenting things with digital effects. So the majority of your shot, the majority of your character is real. So if you use an effect to like make like a gun blast more horrific, or make a gore effect more horrific, that's better than doing the whole thing in a computer, and cheaper, right? Because
Right.
you can do it on a budget. So they said the people they had hired to do the CG mock-up came in and said, what if we tweak it just a little bit? So they said everything on screen is almost always full puppetry unless it's obviously a CG character. But they said we do things with the eyes and with the eyelashes and with some facial features just to augment them a little bit. And they said all of a sudden it looked more fluid, and they're like, you know what, we found the perfect way to meld this together and kind of make it accessible by a nowadays audience, but still remain true to the craftsmanship of what people expect. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like you didn't have to, because the first movie was a big failure. You know, the
Mhm.
fact that it became such a big cult deal was not the original reception. No one wanted it. You know, it was such a strange shot in the dark for Jim Henson. And man, did this whole it just keeps getting better and better. Let me tell you, you don't even know where it's going yet. And
Yeah.
being someone who loved the original movie so much, I felt that at least for like the first few episodes, it kept me guessing. I was like, wait a minute, how are they going to get to point B? Like, I know where this is going. I know all the secrets and mystery that this is trying, but I'm still interested to get there and find out how they get me there. And let me tell you, they leave it wide open for more.
Yeah.
They don't just go and end it at the Dark Crystal movie, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Um,
I was hoping that they actually wouldn't do that, mostly because it is a show, and I'm like, I could do with a few seasons of this.
oh yeah, dude. It's just I feel like, and I'm glad that you went and checked out the original movie, but I feel like you almost don't need to have seen it to appreciate it. It just adds to it, which
Oh yeah.
I can't think of another prequel that's really done that. It's usually just either a boring, oh yeah, I've seen this coming a mile away, or so different that it's not good anymore.
Yeah. That is true. Like, even of the three prequels that I do like, that the internet decided not to like in Star Wars way
Oh,
back.
I wasn't talking about those at all
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm
I know. But
I
prequels always have that problem because you already know where point B is.
right.
That then becomes the new point A, and you're like, okay, how do they eventually get there? And with Dark Crystal, I'm kind of thinking, because after seeing the movie, I'm like, okay, is the eventual plan to like remake slash redo the Dark Crystal movie, but it's like a new ending kind of deal?
God,
Because
I hope not.
or because the only other option is like you either go all the way and then you redo Dark Crystal again, just with all this new tech, and maybe like it's a completely different like universe type of thing, or you're going to have a Jim Henson puppet show have one of the darkest endings ever outside of dinosaurs.
Oh, let me tell you, without spoiling how this one ends, um, if you go from the ending of this and they do nothing else, and then you watch, because I watched The Dark Crystal today after ending this show, the way they start The Dark Crystal is basically telling you what happened after the end point of this show, just in quick words. And it's enough to make you go, "Oh motherfucker! If they do a second season, I'm gonna have to watch that." Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
because they end this one in a very hopeful place, and so I love that they do that, because people that have not seen Dark Crystal are then going to go and watch Dark Crystal and immediately go, "Oh God, when they make a season two, what the hell? You're going to make me watch that. You're going to make me watch Gelfling Genocide. I can't wait."
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because that's what happens. Every character that Jen runs into in Dark Crystal goes, "I thought they murdered all of you."
exactly.
It's just like,
And
holy crap.
and the only thing that's got me thinking maybe they have a completely different end game in mind, like starting out as kind of a prequel thing, but it's not really, kind of like the Planet of the Apes movies were, the recent one.
Oh. So
It's
do you
Agra constantly is like Agra mentioning, I see many paths before me.
do
So
you want to know something without me spoiling a plot point that might tell you differently, or do you want to wait and find out?
I think I'd rather wait and find out on this one.
Okay, I will just say there's something coming down that I feel definitively answers what direction they're going in, and you send me a message when you think you see it.
Okay.
Because let me say, have what happens in episode 5? And spoiler alert for everybody that hasn't watched the Dark Crystal show yet, but What happens in episode 5?
It's the group Dreamcast.
Oh, they just did the Dream Fast, like with
Yeah.
everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
so they all haven't met yet.
No, they all haven't met yet.
Okay, yeah, then yeah, okay, cool. Just checking. It just keeps getting better and better and better. I love the mythos they've added. I love that the Skeksis all have names.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do that with a couple of them in the original movie, but they all get named. They all get individual characters. I think Shaun, not Shaun. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead. What's that actor's name?
Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg is an incredible choice for Chamberlain. Hell, the voice cast in this is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, whenever the scientist showed up, I'm like, hey, Mark Hamill's in this.
Right? Oh, and he's so good. He's so good. The scientist is a bastard.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me tell you, dude. They're all fucking bastards.
Oh, they're the worst. I think I saw your brother, Movie Bob, tweet that they're basically like just a bunch of Ramsay Boltons from Game of Thrones.
Yes. I actually watched. I read a review with a critic that just found this so off-putting because of how sadistic the Skeksis were, and I'm like, have you seen the original movie? Like, that's the whole thing. They're just jerks. Like that. That's. Oh my god.
Yeah, and that's why I'm probably going through the series more slowly, as I need something to counterbalance how awful they are, which is why.
And it just keeps getting worse. They just keep as soon as they realize they don't have to like pretend anymore. Oh god. It like when all the tradition and everything gets dropped, it's just like, oh Jesus Christ. Everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
And not in like a quick way, like in a sick, twisted, like play with your food kind of way.
Yeah.
And you haven't like you've probably looked at the voice cast, but there was a very concerning actor that they bring in to me that I thought was going to take me out of it, and this person is perfect. So if you haven't read, there's a couple of surprise voices for some characters that I was taken aback that they hired them, and I was kind of blown away by how good they were, to tell you the truth. If you haven't seen, I won't.
I haven't taken a look at the voice cast.
Yeah, it's they did a really nice job. And I was like, I saw it, I'm like, that kind of sounds like somebody. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, oh no shit. Wow, good job. Instead of like, like had it been someone like a Sacha Baron Cohen, who I'm sure would have done fine too, it just would have been too obvious.
Yeah.
He kind of takes me out of stuff, unfortunately. Or like, a Taika Waititi, that would have been kind of funny.
That it would.
Now, I would love to see his take on this material too, but did you know the same guy directed every episode? The Louis Leterrier, who did one of my favorite Jet Li movies, or at least American Jet Li movies, Unleashed, the one he did with Mario there. Bob Hoskins, have you seen that?
I actually have not.
Oh, the movie's incredible. But like he did that, he did The Transporter, and he did the Hulk, the one with
Edward Norton, the MC.
Edward Norton. Yeah, and then it's like, and I guess the Henson Company invited him in to like, as a, he's known like a journeyman director who's just really good with big productions, and apparently he showed up and was just a super fan. He showed up and he's like, well, if I did a Dark Crystal, I'd do this, this, and this. And they go, oh, okay. yeah, sweet. Lewis is on board. All right. And they just went from there.
Collection of projects.
Right? It's a weird collection of projects. And then you get, Jim Henson's daughter and Louis Leterrier, and then the guy who created the books and the artwork all together, making this new series on top of the crazy ass voice cast that they got.
Yeah.
And I love how the voice actor and the puppeteer get dual billing with each name.
Yeah.
That's really cool too.
Yeah,
And,
that's good.
and they said, the puppeteers did the voices on set. So like the actors had like an inflection and stuff to go off of. So I think that's really cool too.
Okay.
Kind of like what's his name there? Sean Gunn being a stand-in for Rocket in the
Uh,
Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Sorry, yeah, it was fresh in my mind, so I felt like talking about it.
yeah.
So
Like
what's
there's like three things that are fresh in my mind right now. It's a Dark Crystal, Lord of the Rings, because I just watched those last weekend. And
all of them, or just the Lord of the Rings?
all three of them over the course of the 3-day weekend.
Oh, that's awesome. It you know I don't hate the Hobbit films as much as some, but they're not very good. Um, and I watch this Dark Crystal thing, and I just go, oh, I just wish this could be the Hobbit. Like, I want to watch this Dark Crystal show just in one sitting in a movie theater. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And watching the first episode of this, I felt like when the opening of Fellowship starts, and they just do that whole opening with Galadriel telling you about the history. And I sat there in the theater with my brother, and we turned to each other and we're like, they did it. Like, you didn't have to see anything more. It's just like, this is it. And
Yeah.
I sat there with this Dark Crystal show, and I just felt the exact same way, like 15 minutes into the first episode. I go, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's perfect. My childhood is on screen right now.
Like it's in that moment you knew they stuck the landing.
Well, especially when they're down in Groton, and those worm creatures are there, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're CG. But then as soon as they get close up, they're puppets, and I'm like, holy shit! Like
Yeah.
they did it. Like they merged it. This is wonderful.
Mhm.
I don't know. So what else? You said you had a project you were working on. Is it
Yeah.
something you can talk about or no?
It is. I actually was trying to post the first chapter of it yesterday, but the place I was gonna post it turns out I can't. Uh,
Oh,
I'm writing basically a cathartic Superman story,
nice.
um, a prose Superman story, and it's unfortunately a dark one.
I don't have a problem with that. What was the reason why that you couldn't post it?
It uses real historical people in fanfiction.net, like that's against their terms of service.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I started reading it. I'm like, oh, now I can't post it, and I don't want to change the names of anybody involved because it has to be them.
No, right, of course, of course. Well, I would imagine you'll be able to find something.
Yeah, I'm looking into a few other places. I mean, if push comes to shove, I'll put it on DeviantArt, I guess.
Right, right. Well, please send me a link whenever you add it up. I would read the hell out of that. Um, I still, I am a weird type in that Superman is my favorite superhero just because of my childhood love of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. And I don't have a problem with Dark Superman. I my biggest problem is Dark Superman unexplained or
Yeah,
unwarranted. Like, I remember getting to the end of Man of Steel. Did we talk about this before?
I don't think we've talked about Man of Steel.
Yeah. I just can, it all is a blur to me now, so I don't want to like bore you, but I remember getting to the end of Man of Steel and thinking, okay, that wasn't a perfect movie, but I really dug a lot of what I just saw. And if the next film you give me is Clark Kent having realized how to be Clark Kent, like if this was the origin of Superman realizing, hey, this planet is weird, fitting in here is weird, I'm going to have some strange moral and ethical things that I need to figure out how I actually feel about them. And his arc in that whole first movie was him getting to that point. Sweet. But
Hmm.
instead we got Batman versus Superman. So
Yeah,
it's like I don't really have a problem with Zack Snyder's take on Superman. I have a problem with the fact that we didn't get the fleshed out next Superman movie that I wanted to see. You know?
yeah, I know. And Heck, a Man of Steel as individual art objects, the throwdown in Smallville and the final
Oh
battle
yeah.
are like two things I've always wanted to see. And I mean, it is basically Superman by way of Dragon Ball Z, but the comics for decades have basically implied like that's what's going on here anyways.
Oh no, I loved the visual look of that film. I really dug. I loved all the new Krypton tech. I actually liked how Krypton looked. I liked that we got a version of Krypton that's wholly fantasy. It's like, wow, this is awesome. Give me more of this. This is super cool. I loved that when Zod and his ship show up for the first time, it's like a goddamn horror movie. You know,
Yeah.
with like the lights being affected and everything. I'm like, yes, yes, more of this. I just I have a problem with Superman killing in cold blood if he doesn't learn something from it.
Yeah.
That's my I don't have a problem with him doing it. I have a problem with we didn't see the fallout of how that affected him. We just saw now I'm mopey Superman. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, grow, dude, grow, learn.
Yeah. That is one thing I'll say, because I've like talked with a few people in my DMs on Twitter about it. That kind of is where the story eventually is going to end up. Like, I don't know how long it's actually going to be, but I do know what the ending is, and it's mostly just for my own my own catharsis for living.
No, that's cool. That's awesome. What's with I don't Goffs, I don't want to blow it for you. But what's your hook? Like what's the Reader's Digest approach that you're taking to it? If you want to talk about it, if not, we can change the subject very quickly.
The Reader's Digest version is Superman in Trump's America.
Oh, I want this now. Can you just download this into my head? I want this. This is going to be a tough read, and it's probably going to make me angry, and I want it now.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh God.
Yeah, my mind's gone to a dark place.
Oh no, dude, I'm psyched. This is awesome. Oh, I would read that in a heartbeat. Hell, I'd adapt that into a movie in a heartbeat. Speaking of that, did you see Brightburn?
Oh yeah, I loved Brightburn. I want to get the Blu-ray.
Yeah, no, it's I got out of it and thought like people would be way more jazzed about it than they were, and like a lot of my friends were like angry at me for liking it because they knew how much I liked Superman, and I go, okay, Brightburn, does it go to every possible place that movie could go? No, it scratches the surface of it. But man, was it really freaking cool to see what if Superman was basically Jason Voorhees? Do you know what I mean? I liked that. I thought the parents were really well acted. They didn't have very deep story arcs, but as a father, as someone who's like bringing a child into the world and having those questions about, hey, is the way that they're acting normal, this and that, and seeing, I believed that these parents like would, out of love for this kid, like overlook some of this stuff. It's the same thing with The Omen and movies like that, right? It's like you don't need a ton of other context if you're just going to make a lean little disturbed freaking movie. And I liked it. I guess people were upset that it wasn't anything more than what if Superman was bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I liked that about it. Like, I liked that it didn't have to have another hook. That it was just, no, this kid is pure evil. We're not really sure how. He might be under control by his planet. He might just be pure evil. You're not really gonna know. And it kind of reminded me. I had watched there's the Brendan Foley and Agnew. They do. I think Brendan Foley works for Synapse and does the 2 Cents Cinema thing that I've contributed to. And I very shortly after seeing Brightburn saw the first Child's Play, and that's the same thing. It's a killer doll movie, but it's very lean. Like they have like this voodoo stuff and all this, but the movie's like 75 minutes long, and it's just swift and it takes you there. It doesn't, it doesn't do some deep takedown of consumerism and toys. No, it's just a killer doll.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And man, I think if the drive-in like midnight movie sect was still a big thing, think Brightburn would have cleaned up.
Oh yeah,
It probably just should have been a Netflix movie.
probably, but it at least made its money back. So I don't know. Maybe they'll make a sequel, or maybe
Oh yeah,
because it was Blumhouse that produced it, wasn't it?
yeah. They spent nothing on it.
Yeah, and I could see them like Blumhouse going, hey, what if we like started just doing superheroes, but they're horror? And they're all like pastiches of ones that everybody knows. So like we started with Superman, we implied that there's like a weird witch version of Wonder Woman and some kind of Lovecraftian version of Aquaman running around in our world.
Right. You know what I think would be a really cool take would be a Green Lantern.
Ooh.
Just like that completely spun around. I don't know why, but I think there's a lot of untapped evilness, but Aquaman, that would be ooh.
Yeah, I'd probably do Aquaman before Green Lantern.
A Lovecraftian Aquaman directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Hey, I mean, no studios greenlighting At the Mountains of Madness, so might as well do a cheap one for Blumhouse that kind of is like that.
Oh, fantastic. I'd watch that in a second. What else?
As would I.
What else have I watched recently? Oh, I watched I haven't seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But I watched I think it was the last movie that director made. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Have you seen this?
I actually haven't seen either one of them.
So do you remember the book series Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? It was like that scholastic book series of just old-fashioned creepy stories with wicked sketchy imagery in them. Do you remember these?
Sadly, I don't, because they weren't in my orbit at all as a child. Like I don't even recall seeing them in any libraries that
Okay, well look it up and then realize that about a month ago Guillermo del Toro produced a movie version of those books that was basically he did the exact same formula they did with the Goosebumps movie, which is a manuscript, a bunch of kids uncover it and they read it and the shit from the book starts coming to life. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's a home run. Just like really well done. But I'm like, oh yeah, the guy that made the Autopsy of Jane Doe made Troll Hunter. Have you seen that?
No, I'm very movie illiterate with this guy.
No, it's okay. So Troll Hunter is just one that like all like my underground cinephile friends were like, you got to see this thing, and it finally came on Netflix or something, and I watched it. But it's this cheap Norwegian movie, maybe, about it's a found footage movie about people that stumble upon actual trolls, like just big ass, live under bridge trolls, and it's a horror flick, and it's really well done. And then he did this movie, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, and man, I fear for how Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark turned out because The Autopsy of Jane Doe is fucking insane. But it's really simple, but the concept is this coroner played by it wasn't Brian Cox, was it? Yeah, Brian Cox and his son are, they run a coroner business out of the basement of their house, right?
Right.
And they basically do stuff for unexplained deaths in the local town. The sheriff brings the bodies by and they do the cause of death findings out. Well, the sheriff uncovers this crime scene where a bunch of people are dead in a house and they're locked in there from the outside. So they're like, okay, all these people are dead, but how they thought it was a murder suicide, and they're like, no, it looks like whatever they were doing, they were trying to escape something, and then they find a corpse half buried in the basement of a young girl, and this young girl comes onto their autopsy table, and weird shit starts happening, like lights start flickering, and then as they're doing the autopsy, and then like blood in the freezer will ooze out onto the floor. And the corpses start disappearing from the vaults, down there and walking around.
Out as fast because they have to be around dead bodies all day.
Exactly. And so it just gets weirder and weirder. And I know some people don't like it because its reveal is a bit heavy-handed of what's going on. But being from the part of the country that I'm in, if you can kind of get where I'm going with that,
Hmm.
the reveal for me was a kind of a, all right, guys, good job. You know, that was unique. I haven't seen that, so I highly, if you like horror flicks, I recommend that.
Horror flicks do interest me, and since I've moved out and are not really tied to seeing movies with my folks, I've been wanting to dive into more horror movies.
Yeah, that one I'd recommend that one. That one was cool. It was very very simple, very cheap. You know, that just a couple people in a room the whole time, but it definitely amped up the creep factor. And then the reveal worked for me. For some people, it was like, okay, how does this person really know this? But it's like, you know, I trust that Brian Cox has seen some shit. You know, it reminded me a lot of the Innkeepers. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Can't say that.
That's another cool one. It's kind of like The Shining.
Okay.
I think that was a found footage one too. To tell you the truth, it might not have been. But that was, I forget who did that one. Anyway, yeah. So you said Lord of the Rings. You're working on your Dark Superman, and Dark Crystal. What else, man? What else you got going on? What else is interesting?
All the anime ever.
All the anime. Yes. All of the anime. What have I seen? Have I caught any anime recently? Probably not. And that's a bummer.
Yeah, because there's some really good ones on Netflix.
Yeah, hit me with something. Oh, I did watch the Castlevania show, which isn't really anime, but it is kind of. That was very
considered anime.
That was pretty good though, and I guess that animation company is doing the new He-Man with Kevin Smith. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you heard about that. That's pretty cool.
But now one of the anime that I watched a week or so back, and I've rewatched it since because it's only 11 episodes, is one called Anohana.
Okay.
It's actually the primary screenwriter for that is Mario Okada, who directed that movie I mentioned the first time we talked.
Yes, the one you sent me the link to. Yes.
Yeah, this was like this was one of her bigger I made a name for myself things where she wrote most of the screenplay and characters.
Yep.
And the best way I could describe it if I were to do one of those things of describe a show badly is the Goonies grow up and are haunted by a ghost of one of their members.
Okay, I want this now.
Yeah, it's about a group of kids living in this small town in Japan. They're all in high school, and one of them is seeing his childhood friend who has been dead for 5 years.
Oh, this is making my hair stand up. All right, keep going.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not even a horror thing. It's really a getting over trauma thing.
Yeah.
Because they were a group of like 6 friends that called themselves the Super Peace Busters. And one day she died and they all drifted apart and none of them have dealt with the trauma properly.
Some of the best stories like that spawn from that kind of stuff.
Yep. And so this ghost has a wish that can only be granted by all of them together. So it's up to the main hero to get the gang back together and figure out what this wish is so that they can put this trauma behind them and have their friend finally rest in peace. And I'll be honest, it brought lots and lots of tears to my eyes. Like the final episode is you just need a box of Kleenex just on your lap.
Yeah, is it so its arc is finished in the 11 episodes? It's just like a self-contained thing?
Yeah, self-contained, quick 11 episode binge and it is done.
Oh, I'm on it. I think I'm going to start watching it as soon as we log off here. Just send me the link. That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, that is one of my that's one of my new favorites, and I just watched it like 2 weeks ago for
That's
the first
awesome.
time. But it hasn't all been the sad anime, because I've also been catching up with some of the older stuff via Funimation. Like I finally watched Outlaw Star for the very first time.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and honestly, as soon as I finished watching it, I'm like, I got to thinking, you know, people give Guardians of the Galaxy, like they say it cribs a bunch from Star Wars and pulp sci-fi and like Cowboy Bebop, but it cribs a lot of stuff from Outlaw Star more than anything else.
Oh yeah. Mr. Gunn was definitely a huge Outlaw Star fan, like you can tell.
Oh yeah, like after finishing, I'm like, he was really big into Outlaw Star, wasn't he?
Oh, I watched so much of that show.
And I know it's been like years and years and years, but I do kind of want them to make a second season.
Oh, absolutely. That would
Which
be great.
I guess there's been talks of like them trying to do like a continuation movie or a second season or whatever, but I do need that in my life, especially more Aisha Clan, the cat girl. I loved her.
Yeah, dude, I would. Oh, that was my buddy Jared used to. Because this is back when he had all of Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star just on like bootlegs, and we used to
Mhm.
just get together and watch it all. I remember because we went and saw the Cowboy Bebop movie when it came to Harvard Square, to the cinema there. That was really cool.
Oh, nice.
That was a great thing to see on the big screen. That was a beautifully drawn, animated. That was a cool show. I liked Cowboy Bebop a lot.
Yeah, I need to get the Blu-rays for that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, I think.
There's another series I need to get the Blu-rays for, mostly because the streamed version of it is a censored version.
Oh, really?
No, it's not one of those shows.
No. But I mean, like that. It just annoys me when they do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This one's actually on Hulu. It's another like quick binge, but I know you like horror.
Oh yeah.
And this one is called Another. And the best way I describe it is Final Destination, the anime.
Yep. This was written. You sure I didn't write this?
Yeah, it takes place in a tiny town where some tragedy happened like 30 or so years ago, and now a class is cursed. And every so often there'll be like something that they call the calamity just starts happening, and basically at least one person related to that class within like 2 degrees of family separation drops dead a month.
Oh
And it's
boy.
like horrid stuff, like kind of almost like Omen stuff, like a tractor is not put in park and it plows through a building and crushes someone, or an elevator just breaks and it falls down the shaft.
Oh Jesus.
And it does not skimp on the gore at all, which is where it a lot of its censoring comes in, and it's not even like just a big black blob. It's more like shaded out black gradients, kind of where a majority of the gore is.
Yep.
So you can still get a good picture of it. And the first major death in that still makes my skin crawl.
Nice. I am looking at it right now.
Oh, you're looking at Another?
Yes.
Oh,
This is
God.
right up my alley. I think my buddy Cyrus at work told me about this show. And he came about it the same way. Hey, you like anime? Hey, you like horror?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it's not like Final Destination or some of the slasher movies where they're all college age assholes that you kind of want to die. They're all like high school or junior high students, and they all just want to live because they're kids, and it sucks that this is all happening to them.
That's awesome. That's wild. Speaking, I keep going. You got me on a horror kick, which is fine. I did a Geeks Who Haunt episode for their second season, which hasn't aired yet, on Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Have you ever seen this thing?
I haven't even heard of it.
Oh, so let me, I'll give you the tiniest little blip, but it's on Netflix. You have to watch this thing. It is probably one of the most perfect meldings of horror and comedy I've ever seen. It's right up there with like the Evil Dead sequels, just the amount of slapstick and silliness. But check this out for a premise. These two guys named Tucker and Dale are hillbillies, or as the geeks who haunt people put it, Hill Williams, because it's classier. Um, they're just going out to a cabin that they've bought in the middle of this crappy wooded area in hillbilly country, and they're literally just going there to have a nice weekend. The guy bought this place. They're going to go clean it up, and they're going to fish and drink beer and have a good time. These group of dumb college students are also coming to go camping in this woods. They have particular preconceived notions about the hillbillies, and the hillbillies have particular preconceived notions about them. One thing leads to another, and the kids start dying.
Oh
but
boy.
they keep dying by complete stupidity. like one of the deaths is the guy Tucker, I think it was Tucker, is using a chainsaw to clear some brush behind the house, and he cuts into a tree stump, and there's a hornet's nest in there. So the hornets start buzzing all around him. So he comes running out from behind the house holding the saw. The kid thinks this crazy hillbilly's chasing me down. So the two of them start running. They run side by side and get this look like a slow motion, like, look at each other, as the kid gets impaled on a stick accidentally. So the Tucker and Dale like calling the police. I don't know what's going on. These dumb college students show up and they're just murdering each other. We think it's one of those suicide pacts or something. But the kids keep seeing each of their friends dead and think that the hillbillies are murdering them one by one. It's
God.
genius. It's so well done. And it's really stupid and it's really funny. And Tucker and Dale actually are really like endearing, like nice characters. So like there's a scene involving a wood chipper. You can imagine.
Oh God.
And they're covered in blood and each holding a leg as a police officer comes up, and they just turn as one of them wipes the blood from their face and goes, "Oh, officer, we have had a day." You're just like, all right, this is such a great movie.
I have added that to my list on Netflix. I'm definitely giving that a watch probably this week.
It's wonderful. I hope they make another one. It's so well done, and it's a very unique concept. You mentioned Final Destination in that show, and I remember when I saw Final Destination in the theater for the first time, I had broken my leg. This is like the summer that turned me into a film nut.
Mm-hmm.
Because my brother, I mean, everyone knows my brother, but I grew up watching movies with him, but when it really clicked with me that I had the same love that he did was this summer. I broke my knee playing basketball. It was the summer between freshman and sophomore year of high school. I had to have my leg completely straight out, and this cast went from my ankle all the way up to my waist, basically, almost.
Wow.
So I could only go in my mother's minivan because I could sit in the middle seat there. And so we'd go to the movies, and the local AMC, which was a Lowe's at the time, had a set of seats, not the handicapped area seats, but a set of seats that had instead of having seats in front of them, they had like a pole. So I could put my cast up on the pole. So we'd always go. I basically saw 2 movies a week with my mom that whole summer. And so that was the summer that ended with The Sixth Sense. You know what I mean? So that was like it was, and her and I saw The Sixth Sense, and I remember being in a full theater crowd, and you've seen it, right?
It's been a long time, but I actually have seen it.
But okay, because and spoiler alert on The Sixth Sense, but I remember her turning to me right after the first scene. Now this is like the early doldrums of the internet, movie stuff. Right? Let's see, the summer. This is the summer after episode 1 came out. So yeah, this is like the early days of Ain't It Cool, and so there wasn't a whole lot of sites out there that were spoiling movies for people. And so my mom and I went and saw this. Oh, it's a cool looking movie. And she turns to me right after the opening scene and goes, "I bet you Bruce Willis is dead." And I look at her and I go, you might be onto something there. And then the movie systematically sets up scenes to disprove that intentionally. And I remember being like, wow, like I just want every movie to be like this, to just be like that, in tune with where the audience is going to go. And one of the movies we saw, think about this for a double feature, Final Destination and Pitch Black was a double feature. We got one, and I remember thinking Final Destination was such a unique take on horror flicks. At the time, it was still the dumb teen movie, but I just liked the idea of the actual literal angel of death running around killing off these kids.
Yeah. Wow, that is quite a double feature.
Yeah.
Crap, I was gonna say something and now I can't remember, and I hate it when that happens.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
No, I had like something in my brain in response to you, and now my brain doesn't want to bring it back.
That's a bummer. Well, I am gonna say that we have been going for about an hour, and it is late for me. So I was gonna say, pull out one more topic if you got one, and then if you want to plug anything, and obviously I would love to have you on again, because I have a blast talking to you. But
yeah.
What else you got?
I don't think I got anything else this time.
Okay.
No last minute topic.
All right, cool then. Well, is there anything interesting you want to plug or a shout out or anything?
Yeah, I think I will. I'll plug my blog if that's all right.
Absolutely.
As it were. So you can find me at Twitter at Real Ryan Whorton, and I have a blog that's called Geek Brain, or you can find it at ryanwhorton.wordpress.com. It's also the pinned tweet on my Twitter, and I occasionally write movie reviews and think pieces. My latest of which is it's called Endgame and Fat Shaming, a Thor retrospective, where I basically talk all about Thor in the MCU and how Endgame is not exactly clear cut on if it's fat shaming Thor or not. So
I agree with that. Yeah, that's been a on the fence thing for me since I saw it. So
yeah, and that's why I wrote that. So yeah, that is the stuff that I'm plugging, and keep an eye on my social media feed for when I eventually start posting the chapters for my Superman project.
Nice. You made me think of something when you said the Endgame thing. Did you see the incredible middle finger that Sony pulled on Marvel with their cover art for Spider-Man Far From Home?
I don't think I did.
So they used, you know what happened, right? They split up and Sony has Spider-Man again. So the cover art for the box is completely different than any of the posters. It's just like a close-up of Spider-Man's face. It actually, not only that, it's a close-up of Spider-Man's face and has him in like that stealth armor, and one half like Two-Face, probably implying that they want people to think it has something to do with Venom, which I just think is really funny in and of itself. But then the quote they use from Peter Travers is a quote, like the whole quote is "No end game for Spidey," and then there's a little blip at the bottom that says, he's flying high because this was the movie after Endgame. But the "No end game for Spidey" is in huge text, and it's just like, "Hey, fuck you guys," and I'm like, "Oh, that's brutal, man." Like, uh
Oh, that is a good note to end on.
It is. Well, dude, thank you. And it was really a blast to get back into this. Thank you for being my first guest in a while.
No problem.
And dude, go onward into the night and have a good night. And thank you for shooting the shit with Chippa. And I'll talk to you very soon. All right.
All right.
All right. Later.
Later.